So now let's look at an overview of what we're trying to accomplish and what our partner's trying to accomplish when they want to pass our guards from any kind of X-guard Ashigarami variation. Okay, then we're going to look at how we're going to break down these positions for retention purposes so that it makes sense. Whenever I'm in any kind of Ashigarami X-guard, like so, either here or here, my partner, when she's looking to pass my guard from here, is looking to get two of her legs to the same side of my body, and then eventually to control my head and shoulders or walk to north-south. Okay, one of the reasons why these guards are most desirable is because it denies your partner the ability to make a cranial shift and control your head and shoulders. Okay, if I'm in an X guard, for example, and she wants to pass my guard, she tries to come down and control my head and shoulders and tight pass me from here. There's no way that she can control, even if she gets a tight underhook and crossface, there's no way that she can stay balanced here and do anything with it. Okay? So one of the reasons why Ashigarami X guards are one of the most effective guards is because it completely negates your partner's ability to control your head and shoulders. Okay? And unless they move your leg position, it completely negates the ability to stop them from having your feet pointing towards them and having constant contact with their body so you can create kazushi, okay, an off balance, right? So her goals from top position is one, going to be to get 2 feet to the same side of the body. My goal is going to be to keep my feet between her legs and dominate the space between her knees. If I can do this and I can keep 1 foot on each side of the body, where right now her left leg is on the right side of my body and her right leg is on the left side of my body, I can control this game here. If she can, for example, push my bottom leg down and backstep and get 2 of her feet to the same side of my body, now she can start to win this game we're playing here. Okay, so her first thing is always to get 2 of her feet to the same side of my body. Her second goal is going to be either one, to drop down and control my head and shoulders in some way to actually get to a pass and get chest to chest passing me, or 2, to walk to north-south beyond my shoulder line and then bypassing the cranial shift in the head and now bringing her head down and passing me with the high tripod. Okay? So, always understand that your goals are going to be to keep the distance between her knees controlled, like so, and to keep her 2 feet on either side of your body to create constant kazushi ten attacks. Her goal is going to be to get 2 of her feet to the same side of your body. 1, so there's no more attacks with the Ashigarami. And then 2, find a way, and there's various ways to do this, to work down chest to chest to control you, to dominate the battle for inside real estate, like so, or to walk to north-south, eliminating the battle for the control of the head and shoulders, fight to the inside real estate, and now she controls the inside space and she can pass me. Okay? So just a general overview when you're working with tension X-guard or Ashigaramis versus a standing loose passer. She's always trying to get 2 of her legs to the same side of my body and eventually control my head and shoulders or walk to north-south. So getting chest to chest. And my goals are always to keep my 2 feet between her knees to create constant kazushi so I can go into follow-up attacks. And if I feel like I cannot get my I can't keep my 2 feet in between her knees, and she starts to outflank me and get 2 of her feet to the same side of my body, then my goals change, and I have to start putting her back in front of me. Okay, and we'll look at more of that in the Toreando sequence where she outflanks me. But I have to initially keep 2 of her feet, or 2 of my feet inside of her knees, and then when she outflanks me, I have to put her back in front of me, create contact, and we go back to our loose passing goals like we spoke about in the beginning.
Go.
All right, so we're going to group these Ashigarami X guard situations into specific groups for the guard retention, for guard retention purposes. Okay, so what this means is that I'm not going to waste time going into specific Ashigarami X guard variations and showing the counters for each one of her for her back steps or forward steps to get past my hip line. All right, so this simply means that if I'm in an Arimi Ashigarami right now, my partner's goal is to peel a foot off the hip and backstep, like so. If I'm in an X guard, my partner's goal is to push the bottom leg down, and backstep. Okay, these are two different positions. One's an Arimi Ashigarami and one's an Ashi X guard, but your partner's foot is in the same position relative to your hips. Okay, so the escape for her to get past my legs is going to be relatively the same, and what I'm going to do to counter and recover and go into attacks is going to be the same. Whether she backsteps from here and she ends up here, or whether she backsteps from here and she ends up here, she's ending up in the same position because of the position of her leg relative to my hips. Okay, I have an Achilles grip like so. It's the same thing if we're in a reverse X guard like so. Now, if my partner goes to push my legs down and backsteps, she still ends up in the same spot. So instead of breaking this into, okay, what do I do with my partner backsteps from a Arimi Ashigarami, making that one move? What do I do with my partner backsteps from an X guard, making that one move? Backsteps from a reverse X guard makes that one move. We're just going to classify these in groups. That's going to be based around where my partner's leg is relative to my shoulders and hips. Okay, so I'm going to go to have the groups break down in a second, but we have the option of having an Achilles grip like so, a scoop grip like so, a scoop grip like so, and an Achilles grip like so. So we're going to break these down into groups rather than just positions, so that we can use a variety of leg positions here, like so, and your partner can step into the same exact position from these various leg positions, and we can show you the counters from each given group. Okay, so we're going to group these into 5 separate groups, and the grouping is going to be contingent upon, for attention purposes, will be contingent upon where your partner's leg is relative to your hips and shoulders. Do you have a scoop grip or do you have an Achilles grip? Is your partner's leg on one side or your partner's leg fed across on the opposite side? And based upon where your partner's legs are, that's going to determine where she steps and where she ends up when she actually gets past your hip line. And then how can we recover and go into attacks from there? All right, so our first group 1, will be when we are in the most desirable positions. Okay, this is when we're going to have our opponent's leg fed across. So we can sweep our partner. We have the option of attacking our partner's legs, which we do in a regular X guard, for example, or Ashi X. But we also have the ability to take our partner's back. So this is the most desirable position from here. All right. What we're going to look at is when our partner's leg is on this side of our body, like so, and we're going to start off with an Achilles grip. So we're going to be looking at Oshiro X guard, like so, Oshiro reverse X guard, like so. We're going to be looking at 50-50, like so. And we're going to be looking at cross Ashi, like so. Okay. My partner's goal from any of these positions will always be to clear my feet, step around, and start to do work from here. Okay. So you notice her leg that I have controlled, her near leg, never changes position. I always have an Achilles grip, and it's always on my left hip, whether it be Oshiro X, Oshiro reverse X, 50-50, or cross Ashi. Okay, my partner's goals will always be the same, and her foot will always be in the same position. So instead of breaking it down to individual moves and showing, okay, this is the defense of this, her ending position, as far as her guard retention purposes, will always be the same. She pushes my feet down, she forward steps, like so, and now she's around the corner, and she can start to pass from here. So all of my retention, all of my guard retention follow-ups and attacks from here will all be, from group 1, will all have my partner's leg fed across to the far hip, and she'll be looking to forward step around and get 2 of her legs the same side of my body. Okay? Doesn't ever make sense for your partner to try to backstep. And she just gives you back exposure, and she keeps 2 of her legs in the same side of the body. So it will always be to push feet down, forward step, or to clear feet. For example, she unlocks the legs here, and she brings this foot across, and now she steps around, and she ends up in a situation similar to this. Okay? So this will be group 1. This will be the most desirable when I'm attacking. I fed my partner's leg across, and she's standing over me, and I can create sweeping opportunities, leg locking opportunities, and back exposure opportunities, like so. All right, so that's our most desirable, and that'll be group 1, covering those 4 different positions. All right, so now group 2 is going to be Oshiro X and Oshiro reverse X guard. Okay, so this is a little bit different now because notice when we go from an Ashi Oshiro X or an Ashi reverse X, my partner goes a step forward like so. You noticed she's past my hip line. But when I have a scoop grip, now my partner pushes my legs down and goes a step forward. She's past my shoulder line. So now she can just continue to step around. Now she's already far past my shoulder line and she can start passing from here. Okay? In addition, this is you don't have as many options from here. And your partner can easily, as she goes to peel the legs, like so, she forward steps and then she just strips the scoop grip down below the knee. Now she can just kick out. If you have an Achilles grip, you're a little bit more robust because you can control your partner. And once she gets to kick out and run away from you from here, which is my problem, obviously, when I fight most guys, they just want to run away. This will give you a little bit more tension running through the leg and a little bit more control, especially against guys who are greased. Okay? So we start with most desirable group 1, where we have an Achilles lock like so. And now we move to, and there are pluses and minuses to this too. Yes, you don't have as much control, but you do split your partner's legs more, so it's easier to off-balance them. So you should play both of these positions together when you're speaking as the bottom man and you want to attack. But just understand, overall, I believe that the Achilles lock is a little bit more robust for control purposes. But they're both good. You need to be good at both of these positions. All right? We're going to start off with Oshiro X and Oshiro reverse X. So now my partner goes to push the feet down and she moves. She's in a different position now, and her foot is in a different position relative to my shoulders and hips. Instead of her foot being down on my hip, it's down on my shoulder now. This foot. Instead, it's up on my shoulder now. So now when she goes to take a big step around and correct herself, as she's well past my shoulder line, she's passing to north-south. When she goes with an Achilles grip, when she goes to move to north-south, she can go to a certain degree, but I still have this leg tangled up. So now she can't bring her legs away from me. So if I start peeling grips, I can start re-entering legs in various situations and start bringing her forward. Whereas if I don't have this controlled and she moves to north-south now, she can strip my hand off. She can step out. Go up first. Good. And now I can't control her legs and she can start passing me to north-south. Okay. So this is going to be group 2, Oshiro X and Oshiro reverse X. All right. Group 3 will be when our partner has a leg on the opposite side. So previously, group 1 and group 2, we had our partner's leg fed across, so we can create back exposure. Here, there's very minimal back exposure, so this is a less desirable position than having the leg fed across. Okay, this one we'll look at a Rimi Ashigarami, like so, where our partner goes to peel the foot off the hip, and this time instead of forward stepping, if she forward steps this way, then she just exposes her line, and you can just easily throw Ashigarami on either side and control both your partner's legs. I know people try to push this knee down and pass like this. This is a terrible way of passing. Never do it. Okay, it's always getting 2 legs same side of the body. Okay, this pushing the knee down and trying to mount people is just a miserable way of trying to get past someone's Ashigarami. Never do that. Okay, so a Rimi Ashigarami like so. Our partner back steps. We look at an Ashi X guard like so. Our partner back steps. And we look at an Ashi reverse X, okay, like so, where we have an Achilles grip on our partner's leg. It's not a full X guard because we don't have a scoop grip. So we have an Ashi X guard, Ashi reverse X guard, and a Rimi Ashigarami. From any one of these positions, when your partner goes to peel the legs down and backstep, she always ends up with her leg in the same positions. Whether it's here, whether it's from a regular X guard, here, or whether it's from an Rimi X or a Rimi Ashi, and it's here. Okay, so this will be group 3 when we have the leg on the opposite hip this time. All right, group 4. This time will be, instead of an Achilles grip, we go scoop grip. So this will be X guard and reverse X guard. Okay, same kind of deal. We have Oshiro X. This time, instead of forward stepping past my shoulder line, she'll push the legs down. She'll back step past my shoulder line, And now from here, we're in a slightly different position, but my partner still passed my shoulder line. She can still clear the scoop grip and step out, and then look to start passing north-south and start pinning my legs, pushing my knees away from my chest and passing me from here. So group 4 will be X guard and reverse X guard. And now group 5 is going to be a little bit different. Group 5 is going to be an outside Ashigarami. Okay, and outside Ashigarami is an exception. And this is the point in the instructional where we start to unify loose passing and tight passing. Okay, where my partner can change from one to the other very quickly. Okay, so let's look at when we move to an outside Ashigarami. We have an outside Ashigarami on our partner like so. My partner has a couple of choices from here. She can stay standing and she can look to pass me loosely. Okay, she can separate my legs. She can feed a leg across. And now she can backstep, and she's in the same position she would be if we were in a Rimi Ashigarami or an Ashi X, for example. So if I was an outside Ashigarami, an Rimi Ashigarami, or any kind of X guard, like we just spoke about, and she goes to push my legs down and backstep, she ends up in the same position she would have if she was in these positions. But the only thing is, when I'm in an outside Ashigarami, my partner doesn't have to stand passing. Or sorry, an outside Ashigarami. My partner doesn't have to stand passing. She can come down and look to control my head and my shoulders. Okay? The advantage of playing all of the other Ashigarami X guard variations that we just spoke about is that your partner cannot make a meaningful connection and control your head and your shoulders. Okay? Because you have the inside leg position and you can constantly off balance your partner. This is not true with an outside Ashigarami. So your partner from all the other Ashigaramis only has the choice of loose passing, because she cannot control the head and the shoulders. She can't make a cranial shift where she goes from passing the legs or before she passes the legs to going in and controlling your head. Okay? With an outside Ashigarami, if your partner drops to a knee, for example, now from here, she can come in and she can cross face and underhook me. She can get here and she can drop her knee to the floor. And now she was loose passing initially, but now she can start tight passing. And now my goals have changed. Now I have to look to get my head free, have my jaw from the cross face, and fight my upper body back to the inside position. Okay? She can do this in various ways. She can come down and she can lock, not a top head and arm, but she can lock a karagatame. She can lock a claw grip. She can do many different things from here. Okay? So we have to look at it to retain guard, both against a standing passing opponent from an outside Ashi, where she separates my legs and she backsteps from here. Okay, this will be grouped in with the Ashi X and a Rimi Ashi group. Okay, but because of the exception here, my partner can also drop down to a knee and start tight passing me from here. And this is the only Ashigarami where your partner has can get meaningful control of your head and arms. And we have to look at how we can deal with this accordingly. So this is going to be group 5. It's just going to be an outside Ashigarami, and we're going to look at them standing passing. Obviously, will be grouped into the other group, but we're going to look at how to deal with them tight passing, how to keep the inside position with the hands, and how to fight back to the inside position if someone's trying to pass us.
Possibly spoopy.
All right, so the question we're asking ourselves as far as retention goes when we're here in these X-Guard Ashigarami variations. All right, first and foremost is how can I keep my 2 feet inside my partner's knees? All right, now there was many answers to this in the Sunpai instructional where we can hit constant kazuchis and off balance our partner. We're not going to go over that today because you've already seen that. It's a completely different can of worms. But we will go into what can I be doing when my partner actually does get 2 of their legs to the same side of my body and starts to outflank me or walk past my shoulder line. Okay, so the initial question when you're retaining guard is how can I keep control between their 2 knees? How can I maintain the inside foot position relative to their 2 knees? All right, but when they start to pass you, then your question is how can I go into a counterattack with an off balance so that my partner's not just focused on passing me. So if she backsteps, for example, from in the Rimi Ashigarami, and she goes to bring her 2 feet to the same side, okay, how can I go into some kind of counterattack where I can follow up And instead of her passing me, she's worried about her getting her legs entangled again. So as she has to start passing to side control from here, how can I bring my feet back inside and look to recover to some kind of other X-guard or Ashigarami variation? So off of her initial attack, as she goes to pass me, how can I follow her? Go ahead. And now as she goes to pass, I can look to bring my feet back inside, and I can look to spin and start to go into other attacks of my partner like so. If I can't intercept her and bring my feet back into the equation, the question is, how can I put my partner back in front of me? Okay, so let's say that she just beats me, and now she has V-grips on my legs, or she's controlling my knee and my ankle like so. Now I'm going to bring my feet back into the equation. I can't do it. Now the question becomes, how can I disengage from this position and put myself back in front of my partner, using various grip breaks to put my feet back in front and look to start going into counterattacks from here. Okay, so initial question, how can I control the space between my partner's knees and keep her 2 feet on either side of my body? With constant Kazushi and off balances from here, okay? But assuming she's passing me, she does beat me, get the beat at me, how can I intercept my partner with my legs where I can come through and I can re-enter into attacks my partner's legs and put Ashigarami's back into place? If I can't do that, how can I get my partner from a flanked position to a situation where I can now put my partner back in front of me? Okay, this remains the same from any different given position. If she goes to start moving in here, I can start coming in and going into attacks. If I feel like I can't do that, and she beats me and she clears the leg, and now she gets to pass me, now the question is, how can I put myself back in front of my partner and go into attacks? It's the same here. She goes to start stepping by. How can we come through and start to go into follow-up attacks? If I feel like I can't go into a follow-up attack, how can I put myself back in front of her and create points of contact to go to follow-up attacks from here? Okay? So initially, when you're looking to attack, how can I dominate the space between the knees? When the legs get to the same side of the body, how can I intercept their initial back step or forward step with my legs to go into other forms and combinations of Ashigaramis? If I cannot get my legs back into the equation, how can I use various grip breaks, frames, posts to rotate and put myself into a situation where my partner's back in front of me, where I can look to control ankles, 2-on-1s, wrists, and look to go into my follow-up attacks where she's not out flanking me or past my shoulder line.
What's up, guys?
All right, so we're going to look at a situation where we have Oshiro Ashi X, reverse X, 50-50, anything like that where our opponent clears the legs and steps forwards past our legs. Okay, so we're going to touch on this now. We're going to go into a lot more of these flanked positions when we go into Tori on those and recoveries from there. But because we have an Achilles grip or a scoop grip in this situation, we're going to go into some different options as far as attacking our partner's legs and recovering. So she has a situation where we're here, where we have Oshiro Ashi X, Oshiro Ashi reverse X, 50-50, cross Ashi, things like that. And my partner manages to clear the legs, however it may be, whether it's here, she steps forward, whether she separates my leg from 50-50 and steps forward, whatever the case is, she ends up in a situation where both of her legs are the same side of my body. Okay. Now we're going to look at initially going into my partner's legs when she's not past my shoulder line, and then when she rotates all the way through and steps and starts to come to a situation like so. Okay. Now you have to understand there's a couple things we're looking at here. All right. The most important thing as far as retention goes is going to be what your partner is doing with their hands. Okay, if your partner isn't doing anything intelligent with their hands, they're trying to grab your head or anything like this, it's going to be pretty easy for us to re-entangle their legs. Okay, so if she tries to drop down from here and get control of my head, there's no reason why I can't just come in and start framing and then bring my legs back into place. Okay, and we'll talk more about these cross shoulder posts and cross lap posts later when our partner's trying to pass a Tori on this. That's when the framing becomes important. Okay, so if my partner just passes initially, okay, there's a lot of space between her upper body and my upper body. So the second she passes, my whole thing is just to re-entangle her legs in some way. Okay, there's many ways that we can do this. There's almost an infinite amount of things that I can do and almost an infinite amount of things that she can do. All right, here are some of the options. So as she goes to start passing, I can just take posts on my partner's legs and hips, and I can just bring my leg back into place, and I can catch my partner as she goes to step. So what this will look like is she goes to beat my legs initially, and as she goes to step, I just initially post and bring my leg back through to re-entangle my partner and start putting her leg back where it was on the opposite side of my body, where now I have two legs controlled again with one leg on each side. Okay, I can start bringing legs through. So instead of going back into an X guard variations, as she goes to step through, I can bring myself back into 50-50. Okay, I can re-entangle my partner's legs by just simply following her far leg and moving back into these positions. Okay, I can also, if I feel like I'm going to be beat from here, as she goes to step forward, I want to disengage, I just take my hand from the Achilles grip and I just post my partner's leg, and I just simply put myself back in front of my partner. Okay, she's past my hip line right now. I don't want her to get past my hip and my shoulder line. So I feel like I'm not going to be able to re-entangle my partner's legs. I just put myself back in front of my partner, where now I can go into various attacks and follow-ups. She steps forwards like so, and now this time she starts coming into a situation where she's smart and she starts to try to monitor my ankles. Okay, so she starts stepping past the shoulder line and starts coming in and starts monitoring my ankles. Okay, this is what a smart person is going to do. Okay, if your partner just steps forward, that she stays below the shoulder line, it's hard for her to get to my ankles. It's hard for her to really do anything from here. It's pretty easy for me to either re-entangle her legs like so, or just recover and go into follow-up attacks. A smart person is never going to just stay there and try to drop to their knees and control my head and settle into side control. Okay, I have the Achilles grip, so she can't put her knee on the floor, and I can always re-entangle her legs from here. Okay, so what a smart person is going to do is step forwards beyond my shoulder line, and now start monitoring my ankles and start pushing my knees away from my chest. Okay, if she doesn't do that, then there's no reason why I can't just start re-entangling her legs in various ways and getting myself into a position where I can attack. Okay, if she does step past the shoulder line and she doesn't do anything with my feet, there's no reason why I can't just bring my hands back inside and look to re-entangle the legs in some way. Okay, so your primary goal is always to re-entangle the legs when your partner steps past, so you can start controlling two legs again. Okay, and putting her back in front of you. If I feel like this is absolutely not a possibility, my partner starts grabbing my ankles and pushing my knees away from my chest. Now I feel like I can't pummel my legs into place. Whenever I see this, I'm just going to take my hands and open them and release the Achilles grip. Now, as my partner goes to settle into north-south, I'm just going to take V grips on my partner's leg like so. I'm just going to look to start rotating myself and put myself back in front of my partner. Okay. What she wants is to drop down into a north-south like so. Okay. What I want is to put her back in front of me. So as she goes hands on, I just go 1, 2, and I put myself back in front of my partner like so. Okay, so as we're in here, she goes to start monitoring my ankles. From the situation, we're just going to start relinquishing the Achilles grip. And we're going to look to start posting our partner. Okay, we're going to touch a lot more on this when we go into Toriano passing and we put our partner, and our partner starts outflanking us, getting to the hip line, getting to the shoulder line. But just as an introduction, think about putting your partner back in front of you. Okay, this cross post and this framing we need to understand here. We're going to talk about this more later when we get into in-depth outflanking. Okay, but from here, we just go in, we post on our partner's hips, we post on our partner's legs, and we just look to keep the goal in mind of putting our partner back in front of us. We can't fight continuously from here. So as she goes to drop down, I just come in, I start putting my partner back in front of me, I start connecting myself to my partner, and then we come in and we make connections to start going into our follow-up attacks. Okay, so if our partner beats us from here, steps forward, and she doesn't do anything, she doesn't step past the shoulder line, there's no reason why I can't just come in and re-entangle my partner's legs in various ways to go into follow-up attacks. A smart partner from here is always going to look to come forward beyond the shoulder line. Okay, now if I see that she's not doing anything with her hands, there's no reason why I can't just re-entangle the legs in various ways. Right? If I see her hands are coming down, and I think, okay, before she grabs my ankles, I don't want to be here anymore, then there's no reason why I can't just post and rotate back. So if I see like my partner's gonna beat me from here, so she steps forward, as she goes to step to north-south, she goes to grab my ankles. Before she grabs the ankles, I can just rotate myself back in front of her. So go back. So what this will look like is she goes to peel the next guard, as she goes to step forward beyond the shoulder line, I just put myself back in front, and now I'm ready to go. Worst case scenario, she steps past the shoulder line, and she gets control of my ankles. This is no good. Now I have to start coming in, posting, clearing grips, putting myself back in front, and now from here, we can start going into all of our counter offense. Okay? So worst case scenario, she steps past the shoulder line, starts controlling the grips, and then and passes to north-south. All right, so just have the constant goal in mind of putting yourself back in front of your partner, re-entangling the legs and making contact with them so they're back in front of you. And if you can, control the second leg with some kind of X guard or ashigarami so you can start going into counterattacks as your partner tries to pass. Okay. Worst case scenario, put them back in front of you, at least regard, form a connection so they can't start a second pass with a Toreando or something like that. The worst thing that you want, or the worst case scenario, the last thing you want is for her to be in a situation where you pass, you forward step to a situation like this, she puts herself back in front of me, and now she makes no connection, and she gets outflanked again, and she stays in that defensive cycle. Okay, so the responsibility for her is the second we're back in front of each other, she grabs an ankle, she starts making connections, so when I go to Toreando now, I can't, and she can start going into follow-up attacks. Okay, and like I said, again, when we get into that Toreando flank series, my partner starts passing to side control, to north-south off the Toreandos. We're going to go into a lot of the framing and ways to put our partner back in front of us. But for now, just as an introduction, think about re-entangling the legs, and worst case scenario, putting your partner back in front of you. All right, so now we're going to look at group 2. We're going to look at the Oshiro X-guard situations. It's almost identical. You're just dealing with a scoop grip instead of an Achilles grip. So there's slight differences here. All right, when our partner goes to step forwards, you don't have an Achilles grip anymore. You have a scoop grip, which makes it easier for your partner to peel the hand off. Okay, so as she goes to step forward like so, it's pretty easy here for me to start entering into my partner's legs. A lot of times what will happen is your partner won't even try to be passing you from here. They'll just be trying to basically move out and away from you, especially if you're dealing with someone who's trying to stall and you have good leg locks. Is as you're going to throw your legs up to re-entangle, your partner will strip the grip off and just try to pull the leg out, and that will make it easy for you to catch one of the legs on the way out and rotate yourself back in front of your partner, and then you can obviously re-guard. Okay, so that's what's going to happen a lot of the times, because I feel like there's back exposure, there's leg exposure there. So as they go to step forward, they'll peel the scoop grip. Assuming they don't peel the scoop grip, it's pretty easy again to just go back in and start re-entangling your partner's legs in some way, start creating more leg attacks or back exposure, or at least re-guarding. Okay. If you find yourself in a situation where you just want to put yourself back in front of your partner, okay, it's a little bit different from having an Achilles grip, right? When I have an Achilles grip and I want to just put myself back in front of my partner as she goes a step forward, I just post my partner's shin and knee, and then from here, we just bring our hips up. So we use this rocking motion again with the concave shoulders. Hips come up. We just put ourselves back in front of our partner where we can go into attacks. When I have a scoop grip, it's a little bit different, because now I can't V-grip anywhere on my partner's shin. So when I see this, I just palm my hand to the outside of my partner's leg, like so, and I just use a false grip over my partner's thigh, just push myself back in front. Okay, realistically, you won't be able to create back exposure, but as I go to put myself back in front, she'll square up to me, and we find ourselves here. Okay, so a little bit different as far as re-guarding with a scoop grip versus an Achilles. When I have a scoop grip, I can't V-grip anywhere on my partner's shin and knee. So instead I just pummel to the outside of her leg, so that as she goes to start passing me from here, she can no longer beat me on the flank. We can put ourselves back in front of our partner. All right, and everything from a full north-south position where she goes above the shoulder line, but the second foot remains the same. Right? I can always go in, enter into my partner's legs, or if I feel that from here she has grips of my ankles, I'm always looking to strip grips, put myself back in front of my partner, and then from here, entangle my partner's legs and go and follow attacks. So she grabs my ankles, and she goes a step forward past the shoulder line. I feel like she has control of the ankles. From here, I'm always looking to strip grips, okay? What I can't have is my partner controlling my ankles. So I post my partner's upper body, I post my partner's hips, my legs, and I look to strip grips, then high leg over and put my partner back in some kind of guard. If I feel like she has an exceptionally strong grip in my ankle, then I can go in and I can post on triceps, like so. Or I can grab wrists, and I can break. And then from here, I can put my partner back in front and then go into all of my follow-up attacks from there. Right? But if you just have the constant goal in mind of either entering into your partner's legs from this specific position, creating back exposure if your partner's leg is fed across into the Oshiro position, or just putting your partner back in front of you, everything will become much easier, okay? She wants to stay past the hip line, past the shoulder line. You want to re-entangle the legs, create some kind of back exposure if you can, which is unlikely against a high-level player, but it's still possible. Or worst case scenario, just put them back in front of you, create your points of contact, go into your off balances, get back into your offensive cycle, and then work from there. All right, so now we're going to be looking at Arimi Ashigarami, Ashi X, Ashi Reverse X, things like that. All right, so we're going to be looking at grip 3, as we mentioned. We have an Achilles grip. Our partner's leg is on the opposite side this time, and we have any one of these configurations where you have situations like so. Our partner now is going to be looking to back step instead of forward step. So our goal is always going to be to post on one of my ankles or clear feet off the hips and back step to the situation, okay? The good news is our partner now has no real ability to step past our shoulder line, okay? When she goes to back step, and she gets to step all the way past her shoulder line, it's kind of awkward from here for her to start passing. She's not in a situation where she's lined up with me. So if she tries to drop to north-south from here, it's going to be hard because her leg is locked up in an Achilles grip, okay? Whereas when her leg is on this side, for example, and she goes to back step, now you see she's aligned with my center line, okay, because her leg's on the proper side. When her leg's over here, now when she goes to back step, she's not really aligned with me anymore. Sure, she can pass and she can start monitoring my ankles, but if she tries right from here to drop to north-south, it's hard because when she goes to sprawl this leg back, I can always keep this Achilles grip and keep my knees inside and look to bring feet back inside. Okay, so it's going to be hard for her to pass directly to north-south, assuming you still have an Achilles grip. Okay, whereas again, if we're here, now when she goes to drop into north-south, she can do it, and now she can kind of sprawl and kick that Achilles up to her hamstring, and now she can kind of drop down more easily into north-south, okay, because she's aligned with my center line, whereas over here she's not. So most of the work she's going to be doing from here, when I have an Achilles grip, will be a situation where she back steps and she tries to monitor my knees and get my knees away from my chest and go knee on belly and situations like so. Okay, so let's look at what we can do from here. First things first, when my partner goes to back step from this situation, I'm looking at what her hands are doing. If, for example, she only monitors one of my ankles, because she can't back step, if she goes to back step without my ankles, go ahead, I just follow my partner with sticky hooks. So she has to at least clear my bottom leg from a situation like so. And if she only controls one of my ankles, go ahead, and she goes to back step from here, or if we have an Arimi Ashigarami, for example, and she goes to back step by pushing this ankle down, and she doesn't keep control of this foot, and she goes to back step, I can always intercept my partner's hamstring on the far leg and stop her from stepping all the way through. Okay, what she wants is to get two of her feet again to the same side of my body, like so. So if she only controls one of my ankles, there's no reason why as she goes to back step, I can't catch her on the back step, and as she goes to plant that foot, I just pull myself back in front and re-entangle the legs. So if I find that she's only controlling one ankle, or I can strip an ankle, I can always catch her on the back step and then put her back in front and re-entangle the legs. So just initially retaining guard, if I can stop her from completing the back step, I can keep her in front of me. Okay. Now let's assume that she gets past my legs, she does back step, and we're in a situation like so. Okay. If she just passes my legs and she doesn't have any control of my ankles or any placement of my hands or my knees, and she just back steps initially before she gets control, obviously she's not going to just stand here. But if before she gets control of my knees or my hips or my ankles, If I can, of course, I'm going to look to start going in and re-entering into my partner's legs. So I can bring one leg in, a second leg in, I can split the legs, I can start throwing this leg through, and start coming into attacks with my partner's legs. There's various things where we can do to get my partner's legs re-entangled, because I can always bring my knee back inside here. Okay? If my partner can't stop me from bringing my knee inside my partner's two knees, then there's no reason why I can't just throw my second leg into place and start going into various other attacks. All right, so again, first, we're re-entering into the legs and putting her back in front of me. I don't want to have her sitting in a situation where she's past my hip line. This is no good, okay? So, if I feel my partner has hands on my hips, hands on my ankles, things like so, now we're going to have a different reaction. Now our whole thing is, how can I strip my partner's grips and re-enter the legs, or strip my partner's grips and put her back in front of me? Okay, now there's a million different ways that she can place her hands here. She can go two hands to the ankles. She can go ankle and knee. She can go hip and knee. There's a ton of different things we can do from here. What I'm looking to do is peel the grip on this leg initially, okay? My initial goal is to get my right knee in between her knees. Her goal is to push my knee away from my chest and bring a knee inside, okay? So, as she goes to push my knee down, I'm always going to look to strip this grip. There's multiple ways that we can do this. I can take a wrist grip like so. I can strip. I can take a cross bicep post like so, and I can strip. Or we can take a tricep post, and as she goes to extend, I can push further than she wanted to, and then bring it back up the middle and invert the knee. And then from here, we can look to strip and look to put our legs back in place. Now she still has control of my ankle, so I can't just bring it up like so. So I kick it down and away, and then I fire it back over, and now we can go into all of our attacks and our follow-ups. So when she has control of my ankles and my knees, I always know that her goal is to push my knee away from my chest and bring that second leg in. So whenever I see this, have the goal in mind of, however you can, stripping this hand off the knee. Okay, so I can do it at the wrist. We can do it at the bicep, like so. When I go to bring my knee down, she goes to follow. She can't. I can push her hand further than she wanted to. So as she goes to strip and bring that second knee in, I can bring my knee back inside. Then I strip the second leg, and now we can re-entangle my partner's legs. Okay, that's re-entangling the legs and stripping grips, getting my knee inside of her knee. Now let's talk about a situation where I feel like I'm losing the position, and I want to put myself back in front of her. I want to get her back in front of me and just restart, okay? Because right now she's flanking me. She's past my hip line. This is no good. So she goes in, she puts whatever grip she wants. Whenever I see this, I'm gonna look to start using this hand to strip my partner's grip off, and this hand is my direction hand. So I'm just gonna come through, and I post to my partner's shin like so, and I just look to strip this grip, and then bring my knee in, and then just push myself back in front of my partner. So I bring this knee up, and I get at least this foot to my partner's hip. Okay, your partner will still have a grip on this leg initially. So I initially strip this grip. Now, as I'm going to push myself back in front, I angle. This foot comes in. Now, my partner's V grip is useless. When she goes to do anything with this, I can just easily strip, and now she's back in front of me. If she tries to continue to walk in this direction, I can always re-entangle my partner's legs by stripping that grip and put her back in front of me. Okay, so let's say I just want to put her back in front of me. I feel like I'm going to lose this battle. I'm not going to be able to re-entangle my partner's legs, or I don't want to, and I just want to put her back in front and restart from open guard. As she goes to start coming through, she starts posting on my knee. Her goal, again, is always going to be to beat this knee. So I go in, I strip this grip, like so, and now from here, we just post on the shin. As she goes to start passing, I just bring this leg back in front, and then from here, we can high leg over, move through, and go into our follow-up attacks. Okay? So again, your goal is always to initially re-entangle the legs. If you feel like you cannot do that, because she has grips on the ankles and the knees, always look to clear the grip on the near knee, invert the knee so you can re-entangle the legs, or at least put your partner back in front of you. This time, group 4, we're going to be, instead of having an Ashi X situation, we're going to have a full X guard situation, or instead of having an Achilles grip, we have a scoop grip instead. Okay, so again, very similar, but there's some key differences here. So we have a scoop grip like so. And now, as my partner goes to back step, this is a little bit different because now your partner's leg is above your shoulder line. Okay, so even though, yes, when she goes to back step, she's not quite aligned to move into a north-south situation, but she can make it work because I don't have an Achilles grip anymore. Okay, this is not as robust as an Achilles grip for control. If I have an Achilles grip and my partner's leg is no longer below or above my shoulder line, when she goes to drop into north-south from here, she has no real ability to sprawl her leg back and align herself with me. Okay? Whereas when I have a scoop grip, the grip is at the hamstring. I'm in the middle of the lever here. Okay? This is the shortest end of the lever. This is the longest end of the lever. When I'm working at the Achilles, I'm working at the long end of the lever. So it's hard for her to kick her leg back. If I have a grip up here by the kneecap, now as she goes to drop down into north-south, she can just kick her leg back and away, and her leg versus my arm is she's always gonna win this battle from here. So if she just kicks her leg back and away, now she can move into a situation where she can align herself, walk to true north-south, and beat me from here. Okay? Whereas if I have an Achilles grip, when she goes to drop into north-south and kick her leg back ahead, I can always keep a tight elbow and keep her foot pinned in place. As she goes to start dropping into a north-south and she goes to kick that leg back hard, the angle's wrong, everything's wrong from here. Okay? Again, this is different than the leg on this side because now she's aligned with my center line. So now when she goes to drop down, the angle is different, and as she goes to drop into a north-south, she can kick her leg back, and it's hard for me to control the leg. Okay? Because of the angle change, it's very difficult for me to keep a tight elbow and keep my knees in place and keep her leg from shooting back and away from it. I can hold as tight as I want, but when she drops her knee down and kicks the leg back, you're always going to lose this battle from here. Whereas if you're here, now she gets to kick back and away. The angle's different, so she won't be able to kick back. She's kicking diagonally in this direction. She's not kicking straight overhead like she was on this side. Okay, so it's a different position. So you have to understand this. When I have a scoop grip, however, this changes. Because now, when she goes to kick her leg back, we're working at the short end of the lever, and her leg is always going to beat my arm from here. So she can pass the north-south when she backsteps from traditional X guard reverse X situations. So everything is very similar, but slightly different from here. So again, as she goes to backstep, like so, if she only controls one of my ankles, for example, and goes to backstep, I can always catch her mid backstep, stop her from completing the backstep, then put her back in front of me. That remains the same. If I find she backsteps, and before she can control my ankle, she just backsteps, and there's no control of my hips or my knees, I can invert, and I can go right back into my counterattacks and re-entangle the legs. That remains the same. Now, if my partner has a grip of my knee and my ankle, or my hip and my ankle, or my hip and my knee, for example, like so, again, it's always a battle of this knee. Now, if I want to strip this grip, I can strip this grip and invert my knee and bring my legs back in front and go back into leg entanglements, that's fine. If I want to put my partner back in front of me, things change from here because of the grip change. So she has a grip of my knee, I don't have an Achilles anymore. So from here, I have to relinquish the scoop grip, I have to come through like so, and I have to move my head away. I have to try to make a V grip on my partner's knee so I can use this direction hand to put myself back in front of her. So from here, I go from a scoop, I pommel around, my head moves away, and then I post on my partner's shin like so. As I strip this grip, I just push myself into a situation where my knees can come up, I can get my foot to my partner's hip, and I can then put her back in front of me where she's not outflanking me anymore, and we can start to do work from open guard. Okay? So when we have an Achilles grip, we just move to a V grip. Okay, the head moves slightly, and the V grip's readily available. When we have a scoop grip, now there's no V grip readily available. So I have to make a movement with my head away from my partner. I pommel inside, I use this backhand like so to move my head away, and then I switch to a V grip. Okay, this is all I need. Now, I can't bring my knee back in front of my partner because she has a grip on my knee. If I just try to put myself back in front and she pushes the knee down, your partner's going to beat you every time. So I have to strip this grip in some way, okay? Either a cross post like so, a cross post like so, a tricep post like so that my knee can come back in towards my chest and find my partner's hip. And then now from here, we can put our partner back in front of us. Okay, again, there's so many ways to put your partner back in front of you with grip changes. She can change her grips, I can change my grips. But for now, just think about putting your partner back in front of you, okay? You can absolutely not accept them backstepping, moving to a flank, and hanging out here. Okay, if you can't re-entangle the legs, you can't do anything, just focus on putting that person back in front of you so they can't out angle you and stay on the flank. So we strip this grip somehow, however we want. We take a hand inside as our head moves away, and we just go from a scoop grip to a V grip. And now from here, we find the hip, we put our partner back in front, and then we can go into our follow-up attacks, okay? If our partner moves to a north-south, if she doesn't do anything and she has no grips in the ankles, there's no reason why I can't just start throwing my legs up and again, start re-entangling my partner's legs in various ways. More than likely, she will have 2 grips of my ankles. So whenever I see this, I have to start moving into a situation where I can put her back in front of me. The easiest way to do this is to take the scoop out, to move my head away, and then to just take a backhanded post to my partner's thigh like so. This will allow me to start moving into a situation where my head can move away, and then I can move to a V grip on my partner's knee and shin like so. Now, I have to bring one of my legs to my partner's hip. I can do this by clearing the far leg. I can use a high leg method, put my partner back in front. Or I can clear the near leg and reach for my partner's hip and put my partner back in front. Okay, both are great methods. And again, we're going to talk about more of these high legs and scissor guard, introduction to a scissor guard, and things like that when we talk about Toriano's and flanking and her passing to north-south. But for now, just think about as she goes to walk all the way past her shoulder line, just put this person back in front of you, okay? However you can. There's, again, a million grip changes. We can come through. I take a scoop. My head moves away as I'm stripping the grips. Okay, this is all simultaneous. So as I go to move my head away, I go to post on my partner's leg like so. Now I can either strip this grip and high leg, put her back in front of me, or I can strip the near leg and put her back in front of me. As long as I can get her back in front of me, you're going to be safe from here. And you're ready right again to go into counterattacks. You can't just put her back in front of you and have her Toriano again. The second you put her back in front of you, you always go back into a counterattack and an off balance. So what this will look like, in like a semi-live situation, is I have an X guard, she goes to backstep past my shoulder line, and the whole time I'm here. And I go right into my counterattack, where we can go into our follow-up moves and get some offense going to break her offensive cycle and go into her own offensive cycle. Okay, this is super, super important. Just focus on re-entangling the legs of putting the person back in front of you. All right, so now let's look at outside ashigarami. And like I said, this is the exception. So we're gonna spend a little bit more time on this because there are some legitimate dangers from here. All right, you can get your back taken, you can get legitimately passed where you're pinned and you have your head and arm controlled. There's some things that can go wrong here. All right, so just understand that, just understand that if your partner chooses to to stay standing and start the pass, and she separates the legs and backsteps, now you're in the same situation as you were with group 3. Okay, when you have Ashi X, Arimi X, reverse Ashi X, things like that, where a partner backsteps, just like from here, and then you're playing this game. Okay, but you have to also understand your partner also has the option to drop down to a knee and try to get a top head and arm, try to get a kagatame, try to get inside position, eventually get this knee to the floor, and then crush you from here. Okay, so this is a real problem. Okay, so let's just talk about, my partner drops down to a knee. Let's just talk about what we can do to keep the inside position. Okay, because ultimately, in order for her to pass, she has to get control of my head and my arm, and she has to bring this knee to the floor. Okay, that's how you're going to pass anybody who's good legitimately. All right, so as this knee come to the floor, like so. She'll look to get control of my head and my arm. She'll look to sprawl this leg out, and she'll look to either pass me or take my back, depending on what grip she has. All right. So, first things first, I want to make sure that she can't get this knee to the floor. Okay, if she cannot get this knee to the floor, it's kind of hard to control my head and my arm. Right? When she goes to get a top head and arm and she keeps her knee off the floor, you see it's kind of awkward for here. And it's pretty easy for me to create space and bring my hands back inside. Okay, so my question is, how do I keep this knee off of the floor? Okay, against someone who's talented and big, possibly much bigger than I am. The answer is use this Achilles grip and have confidence in this Achilles grip. Okay. The biggest mistake people make is they try to expose their partner's heel and they relinquish the Achilles grip. They don't make use of the Achilles as long as they should. They try to expose the heel from here, and then as they go to expose the heel, the knee drops to the floor, and then guys get beat. Okay? Stay with the Achilles grip until you have some kind of wedge in front of your partner's hips. Right now, you see my knees are pointing towards the ceiling. Okay? So the second the Achilles comes off, there's no reason why she can't just drop her knee to the floor. So what I want to look to do is I want to maintain the inside position by taking a cross lat post like so. So my partner goes to come forward and crush me and drive that knee to the floor. I can always make space. Okay. This cross lat post is going to make space for my right knee to invert my shin across my partner's hips like so. And now I can lock a figure of 4. So now when she goes to come forward and crush me, when she goes to bring that knee to the floor, it's impossible. Okay. And now we can use what's called the self frame, where I frame on myself. And I take my right hand and I post on the inside of my right knee. So when she goes to shove that knee across now, this knee, across, this knee. When she goes to shove that knee across, I can push my knee into her far hip, and it's hard for her to start pulling my knee back across. If I just pull my knee like so, and I have a strong partner, she can just yank the knee across and give me problems from here. Okay, in which case I just go cross shoulder or cross lat and make space again for that leg to invert. That knee to invert. Okay, I can go self-framing here. So now when she goes to move it across, it's difficult. And now we can start to look to expose my partner's heel from here and roll my partner through or break her right from here. Okay. So the first thing I want to look to do is to always maintain the inside position. All right. The way that I do this is by not allowing her knee to come to the floor and her heel to come to her butt. All right. If she can bring the knee to the floor and the heel to her butt, now she's much closer to me. And now I don't have any offense from here. There's no heel exposure. And from here, she can start to flatten me out. So the first thing I want to do is always deny her the ability to bring her knee to the floor and her heel to her butt. I do this by putting a wedge in front of her hips. So as she goes to come forwards, I put a cross lat post in like so. The significance of the cross lat, initially when her knee's not on the floor, the significance of the cross lat is to make space for my right knee to invert. If she comes forwards towards me, I can't move my knee. It's wedged between her leg and her ribs. Okay, so I use a cross lat post like so. So now when she goes to come forwards, she can't get to my head and pull herself in close to me. Okay, when she goes to move towards me, I can always invert this knee. Okay, we can either post on the floor and invert it, or I can use a shimmying of this left knee to help me invert. So we go 1, invert, or we flare the legs out, we invert, and we relock. Now we can relinquish this cross lat post here, and now that we have a wedge in front of our partner's hips, we can go between self-framing and grabbing the knee. So when she goes to shove that leg across, she can't. And now I can off-balance her by putting her hands to the floor, by pointing my knees to the far hip, and now she has no ability for a split second to bring my knee back across because her hands are on the floor. And now I go to the knee, I expose the heel, now I can roll a partner through. Okay. So initially retaining from this position is about keeping the knee off the floor, keeping the heel away from the butt, and putting a wedge in front of my partner's hips. Okay. When she goes to come forward, this is no good. I use a cross lat post. If I feel my partner comes forward and the cross lat isn't there, I have to first look to pull my knees to my chest to clear the collar tie. I can't just push my partner with the cross lat out. So as she goes to come in forwards, if she does get here and I'm late with the cross lat, I pull my knees to my chest. I hide my jaw from a strong collar tie and cross face. Okay, what I don't want is sort of pull herself in and then she starts cross facing me. This hand gets deep and now she starts digging in an underhook and it all becomes a disaster. Okay, so I want to initially clear the collar tie by going cross lat. I pull her towards me and I just duck under the collar tie. Now I can invert my knee, and now from here we can go into exposure on the heel. Okay, so as she goes to bring the knee to the floor, she can't. As she goes to come forward and crush me, I can't have this. So I go here. When she goes to come forward and crush me now, it's difficult. If she does come forward, I pull my knees to the chest first. I can't push her away. Strong body. This is never going to work. So I pull her towards me. She wants to come towards me. No problem. And now from here we can go in and start attacking. Okay? So initially, we're keeping the heel away from the butt, the knee off the floor, and we're always creating space between my upper body and her upper body to put a wedge between her hips and mine. Okay? So initially, we're keeping the inside position so she can't come forward and just immediately crush me before I have the chance to go into any attacks. All right, so now we're going to look at reclaiming the Achilles when our partner gets the knee to the floor. Okay, because when the knee gets to when your partner gets the knee to the floor, that's when they start they start being able to jump to the upper body and start getting their upper body grips. All right, so now we move to a situation where we have an outside ashi, but she gets her knee to the floor for whatever reason, and now I feel like I'm here and I'm beat, and okay, I'm an inch away now from her controlling my upper body and passing me. All right, you can actually, there's a lot of matches where I find myself in these positions, but they're earlier in my career. There's no video of them. But a perfect example of this exact position is 2018 Nogi Worlds, me versus Yuri Samois. I fight him twice. The first match, I fight him in my division semifinals. It's on YouTube. You can actually watch this. He flattens me out from here, and he actually body locks me. And he tries to pass me from here, and I recover and enter into his legs, and I end up, I think, sweeping him from here or something, or at least recovering. So if you want to see this live, it's in that match from IBJJF Nogi Worlds 2018. All right. So now the first thing I have to make sure of is that my partner cannot get to upper body inside position. Okay, because ultimately what she wants to do is she wants to keep my upper body pinned to the floor in some way, or control my head and my arm in some way, and elongate my body by sprawling the legs back and separating my legs. Okay? If I can keep my body in a situation where my head's down close to my legs, when she goes to sprawl, I can always keep my legs locked and have her legs controlled. But if she sprawls and pulls my legs one way, as her upper body is pinning and pulling my shoulders and pulling my shoulders and head in the opposite direction, that's when I start to get beat. Okay, so first and foremost, I want to keep the upper body inside position. Okay, it's a very simple way to do this. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're always going to fall to the side that I'm looking to attack her leg. So if I'm my left hip, my upper body I always move to my left shoulder. Okay, what I can't have is a situation where I'm on my left hip and my right shoulder's on the floor. This is unacceptable. Okay, because now there's no reason why she can't punch in underhooks and cross faces and start to control my upper body. Okay, so as she goes to start cross facing me, we go cross shoulder, inside bicep tie. We have two frames in like so. So now, as she goes to start cross facing me, she cannot get control of my head. When she goes to start digging in an underhook, because I'm on my left shoulder, she can't punch an underhook in place. Okay. Now from here, I'm safe. I have upper body inside position. When she goes to sprawl out and pass my legs, she can't do it. When she goes to pommel hands inside, she can't do it. And now you can start to reclaim the inside position and fight back to your Achilles. The way that I do this is through a pumping motion with my legs. Okay. So as she goes to start sprawling her legs out, I'm just going to look to pump my knees to and from my chest. So I extend and I pull. I extend and I pull. And I get her rocking like so. What she wants is a sprawl. Okay, so she's sprawling the whole time. She's driving into me. I'm just pulling and pushing, pulling and pushing. And then when I'm ready, I pull, and you see her knee has started to come off the ground. So I pull, pump, I pump, I pump, and then as I'm ready, I pull my left knee into my chest, and I look to switch from a cross shoulder to a cross lat. So as she goes to push into me, I pump my knees, I guide her out and away with the cross lat, and now from here, her knee's off the floor. So now I pull my left knee into my chest. When she goes to return that knee to the floor, there's a wedge behind her knee. And now from here, we invert the knee. We switch back to an Achilles. And when she goes to sprawl out and crush me again, we go right back into that self frame. And now we're ready to go into our counterattacks. Okay? So retention from an outside Ashigarami. She goes in, she goes to crush me. I initially have inside position. Now she's going to be fighting your hands this whole time. You have to constantly fight back to inside position. When she goes to pommel inside my hands, I can't just allow her to do that. So as she goes to pommel inside, I have to be, as a whole pommeling battle we're playing here. Okay, the whole time. When she goes to reach over to my collar, I go high elbow. Go ahead. When she goes to pommel inside, go ahead. I can't just stay high elbow. I go low elbow. So when she goes to grab me, they go high, low, high, low, high, low. Okay? Now from here, as she goes to start pommeling underhooks in, if I feel as she goes to pommel underhooks in, I'm getting beat here, I have to start pommeling back inside. Okay, so as she goes to punch her underhook, I pommel my hand back inside, and I shoot my elbow across, and then I go back to a cross shoulder. So as she goes to win this pommeling battle the whole time, go ahead, underhooks and cross faces. The whole time I'm fighting back to the inside position, and then I'm pumping my legs, pumping my legs, pumping my legs. When I'm ready to go, and I feel like I have enough momentum, I pull my knees into my chest, and we go cross shoulder to cross lat. Now from here, I scissor my legs. So my top leg shoots away, my bottom knee pulls in towards my chest, and I make space for my right knee to invert. And now from here, we switch. If there's heel exposure, right to the heel. If my partner faces me like she will, we go Achilles and self-frame, and now we're back in business, ready to go into attacks. Okay? So, she has her knee on the floor. My left hip is down, so I'm on my left shoulder. I can't have my right shoulder coming down to the floor and being flat on the ground. So I'm always like so. I have a cross shoulder, and I have an inside bicep tie. So when she goes to crush me from here, it's difficult. She can't get any upper body inside position. I start pumping, 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 and then I pull, I go cross lat, I scissor my legs. Now I want to get her knee off the floor. I get her knee off the floor by pumping, using this direction hand to guide her head off axis from mine. And then from here, I scissor the legs to elevate the knee. Now from here, we invert the knee. We switch back to an Achilles. And now she goes to crush me. It'll be difficult. And we're back in business, ready to attack. And we have a situation where we retain guard from a position where really she should be passing me when she has her knee on the floor. So now we're getting into like almost kind of worst case scenario situations where my partner gets the knee to the floor and she wins the battle for upper body inside position. How can we recover and not get past? Okay, so we're in a situation where we have an outside Ashigarami. She puts her knee on the floor, and now she gets a top head and arm. Okay, there's two top head and arms she can take from here. She can go one with the cross face on the same side as the trapped leg, or she can go an underhook is the same side as a trapped leg and lock a top head and arm like so. Okay? Both are good because both will keep my head and shoulders pinned and will allow her to bring my head and shoulders in one direction and sprawl her leg down and away in the opposite direction. Okay? Whether she goes with the cross face here, like so, now she can open up this elbow and separate my legs, or she can go cross face here. She can pull her elbow down into my shoulder and lift this elbow in the opposite direction and separate, and now walk around to the other side. Okay, so both are good. We're having to look at how we can recover from both situations. Okay, first we'll go cross face on the same side as the trapped leg. All right, this is a real problem from here. Okay, we need to figure out how we can get our right hand back inside, and we need to see how we can hide the jaw from the cross face. All right, the first thing I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to lock a figure four with my legs. If I have a semi-senkaku, just cross ankles here, a semi-triangle, she can always just sprawl her leg back, extend, and the legs are going to come right open. Okay? So I'm always going to go in and reinforce this wedge by going with a full triangle instead. Okay? The further she extends my body and the further she can sprawl that leg back, the harder it's going to be. So if I go semi-triangle and she sprawls back, she had almost a full extension right away. Whereas if I have a full triangle, I pull my knees to my chest. Now when she goes to sprawl, she can't elongate me as far as she wants to. Okay, you saw this in the match with Yuri as well. Okay, if you notice, I have a full triangle locked. Okay, so now as she goes to extend me, she can do it to a certain degree. It's not going to be comfortable, but she won't be able to separate your legs for some amount of time. Now you have to understand you're in a losing battle here, and eventually your hamstrings are going to get tired, and your partner is just basically sprawling, and her sprawl is always going to beat your back heel. Okay, so you're eventually going to get tired, and you're going to lose this battle. So we have to act quickly. So from this situation, my entire goal is to create space with the pumping action of my legs, so I can get a hand back inside. Okay, so I have to be able to get a hand underneath her jaw like so. Okay. There's a few ways that we can do this. Number one, we can take a hand inside, like so, start to look to make space. Or we can take a hand right through and underneath my partner's jaw right from the beginning. Okay? Usually what's going to happen with someone good is a combination of both. So I'll have a hand inside, I'll look to start making space, and then I'll bring a hand back inside, and we have two hands to the inside. Okay? The only way I'll be able to do this is by pumping my legs. Right now, she has good head position. She's here. I'm never going to be able to get my hand back inside. So I started pumping action. I started pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing. And you see, every time I push away, more space is created. What I can't just do is just push my partner away. Okay? Because then she's just pushing into me, I'm pushing into her, and we're going back and forth. Okay? So from here, I start pumping, 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 and every time I make a little bit more space. Okay? As I do this, I start to wiggle my hand inside. Now, as I make space, there's going to be a critical moment where I have just enough space to pummel my hand in front of my partner's face. Okay? It might not go all the way under the jaw first, but it'll at least be able to get it under your partner's face, or in front of your partner's face. So as she goes to keep crushing me, she goes strong body. I can at least get a hand. That'll be nice. I can at least get a hand in front of my partner's face, and I can work it down underneath my partner's jaw. Now I have two hands inside. My right elbow is still losing in the outside position. So she still has underhook and crossface and control of my shoulders. Now from here, as she goes to start holding, or starts to keep holding me in tight, I'm going to look to start taking my jaw underneath and inside my partner's crossface. I can't accept this. Okay? So I keep this pumping motion with my legs, and I bring my jaw inside the crossface. Now from here, when she goes to keep holding me, I keep pumping, and I just start lifting with the left elbow to get my head further and further underneath the crossface until eventually the crossface slips off. Now we go cross lat, and as she goes to face me, I invert the knee, and we're ready to go back in with our attacks. We're back in business. Okay? So it's a matter of fighting back to the inside position. So she has a top-headed arm, like so. Okay? Cross face on the same side as the trap knee. From this situation, we're going to take our legs and start pumping so we can bring a hand inside the shoulder. Now, we're going to keep pumping, pumping, pumping. We're going to bring a hand inside in front of the face. This hand just in front of the face will always, as you pump, slide down underneath the jaw. And now we just go in palm to palm. Now, from here, I keep pumping, 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 and I hide my jaw from the crossface. Now, as I keep pumping and I hide my jaw from the crossface, I'm going to make a switch from a palm-to-palm grip to a post on my own head. And now, every time I pump and I pull my knees to my chest, I just finger walk up my own head, and I draw the crossface up further towards the top of my head. So as she goes to hold on tight, we go cross lat, we self-frame, and now we have a shin in front, and we're back in business. The heels away from the butt, the knees off the floor, and we're ready to go into counterattacks. Okay? So that's the first top head and arm pin. All right, now you have to understand this is not going to be comfortable. It's going to be, you're basically losing. You've lost a lot of battles here. Right? You have an outside Hashigurami. You allowed your partners need to get to the floor. You allowed them to fight to upper body inside position. And you should technically be losing this battle from here. Okay? Understand that it's a simple battle for inside position. If you can win the battle for inside position, just like we always talk about, if you can win the battle for inside position, you're going to recover. If she can win the battle for inside position, she's going to pass you or take your back. In this case, she's going to pass you, okay, because your shoulders have been on the floor, right? So you have to fight back to inside position, and the way to do this is by creating kazushi, an off balance and a pumping of your legs. So you off balance forward, you off balance backward, and you pump the legs until you can fight your hands back to inside position, and then eventually get the knee back off the floor, okay? So again, back to our original statements in the beginning, it's just a simple battle for inside position, all right? So now we're going to look at a situation where our partner has an underhook on the same side as the trapped leg and a crossface on this side, okay? Whenever I see this is a little bit different now. Okay. Whenever I see this, it's a little bit different now, okay? I'm still going to go with the same pumping motion of my legs. Again, the initial triangle. I'm still going to go with the same pumping motion of my legs. And this time, I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to go inside the shoulder like so, okay? As I'm looking to start pumping, I pump, and then again, I bring a hand in front of my partner's face, and then eventually down like so. Okay, so I'm underneath my partner's jaw. Now, thankfully, this crossface is a little bit easier to clear. Okay, the reason being, because I'm already on my left shoulder. So I can turn onto my left shoulder in this direction and look to start slipping the crossface out and over like so. Now, this is not going to be easy because your partner's going to be lifting with her right elbow and pulling down to my shoulder with her left elbow. So now, if I just try to lift and clear the crossface, it's going to be impossible. That's why the pumping motion is so important. So I pull and I push. She goes, strong body, tries to hold me. I pull, I push, I pull, I push. And you see my head go from here, where she has a strong crossface, so I hide my jaw from the crossface, and we come in here. And she goes to hold on tight. I pump, I pump, I pump, I pump. And now from here, we're in a situation where now I have freed my head and my arm. And now we can start to work from here. The issue is there's no ability to move her in this direction because I was escaping in the wrong direction, where now her knee's still planted heavily on the floor. So now it's going to be, the battle is going to be you fighting to inside position and keeping the inside position long enough to pump your legs to get back into a situation where you can attack. So she's going to go to fight back to inside position. I go right back to my cross shoulder post, my inside bicep tie. Now we start pumping until eventually we can make the adjustments needed to go into our follow-ups and get the knee off the floor. Okay, so this time she goes underhook and crossface on the opposite side. Okay, whenever I see this, I'm always going to look to go to my left in this case, to the side of the trapped leg. Okay, because the crossface will slip off if I can get to a situation like so. So I start pumping, I bring a right hand inside, I start pumping, I bring a left hand inside. And now from here, we just start pumping, pumping, pumping. She goes to hold on tight. I pump, I pump, I pump. Now we go inside. Now she goes to come back towards me. I pump until we can create space and get back to inside position and get the knee off the floor. Okay? So you have to be able to keep inside position. If you lose it, you have to fight back to the inside position with a kazushi and a pumping forwards and backward motion of your legs. Okay? This is how you retain guard from an outside Hashigurami. When you messed up, the person got the knee to the floor and they got upper body inside control. They flattened you out and looking to sprawl and pass your legs. Okay? Fight back to inside position, pump the legs, get the knee off the floor, and then go into your counterattacks. Now we're going to look at someone who gets double underhooks. All right. Now, double underhooks is different than a body lock. Okay, you have the same grip, but they're two different things. All right. So this is actually another reference to my Yuri match. If someone locks the body lock. and gets in a grip like so. Okay. Yes, they have their hands locked in the same configuration they would if they had double underhooks. But from here, they have no ability to elongate your body and bring your head and shoulders in one direction while they sprawl their leg in the opposite direction. Okay, this is Yuri's mistake. So he tried to sprawl his leg from here, but you see there's no sprawl. And now it's pretty easy to pummel hands inside and just look to get them pumping, and get a hand posted, and then you go cross lat, and you can bring everything back inside. Okay, it's much different than having double underhooks, the same lock of the hands, but now you're higher, and now if she pulls the left elbow down and opens the right elbow and sprawls, that can start to run into some problems here. Okay, so again, same figure four of the legs. She locks in tight like so, and now I feel like, okay, what am I supposed to do from here? All right, whenever I see this, I'm going to start pumping, and I'm going to bring my near hand in first. So the hand of the same size as the trapped leg is going to come underneath her jaw first. Right now, it's impossible for me to get this hand in because my shoulder's flat, okay? And I can't bring this hand underneath and inside the shoulder because it's trapped. She has the inside position. So I start pumping, and I get my left hand inside like so. Now, I go cross shoulder the best I can with my left hand. I keep pumping, and I make space now for my right hand to come inside, okay? And again, it might just get here, and then you pump, and then you get inside like so. Now, from here, as she goes to hold on tight, I keep pumping, and I'm going to look to get my left elbow in first, okay? It's hard to get my right elbow in because it's elevated so high. My left elbow is a little bit lower because I'm just on my left shoulder, so inherently it's going to be a little bit lower, all right? From this situation, I keep pumping, my legs pumping, and look, I bring my head underneath. Now from here, I'm going to take my right hand, and I'm going to go inside the shoulder with a V grip like so. Okay, so I have two hands inside, but I go inside V grip with my right hand. As she goes to hold on tight, I pump, and I straighten my hand, and I feel like my elbow's ready to slip, and the elbow slips inside. I keep the hands locked. My elbow slips inside. Now that my elbow's inside, now it's pretty easy for me to go cross shoulder with my left hand, make space for my right elbow to come in. Again, you can't pull it down. It's a straightening first, and then it slips inside. And now you're back in the business. Now she's going to unlock her hands and try to do something else and repommel. And we have hands inside where we can pump and bring everything back inside like we did previously. So she goes double underhooks, and we're in here like so. I start pumping my legs to get a hand inside, okay? I can either go through here and then work my way in best I can, or I can go around the top and work my hand in, okay? And I keep pumping, and I bring my right hand inside. Now, as I continue to pump, I pump, left hand comes out. As my left hand comes out, we go cross V grip on the shoulder. Elbow comes in, okay? A straightening of the hand, elbow slips in. If I keep the hand bent, it won't work. So I pump, I straighten, and I slip. Now we come cross shoulder. As she goes to keep the cross face in heavy, I keep pumping, I straighten, and I slip. And then from here, we're ready to go. Okay? So we go double underhooks. Again, incrementally fighting back to inside position through constant kazushi, pumping up the legs. One hand comes in, other hand comes in. We go cross shoulder post with the V grip inside the shoulder, straightening arms, bringing elbows back inside, and then framing and regaining the Achilles grip after that. All right, so you're in pretty much worst case scenario. Not only are your head and shoulders pinned and controlled, but if your partner passes you, she's in a kakatame and she's ready to finish you. Okay, so this is a real issue. So we have an Atanashi Garami, and my partner has hands locked. She won't be able to get a strong strangling grip from here, okay, because you can always push your legs away. So when she goes to strangle you from here, she's not gonna be able to finish you, but she will be able to start opening up this elbow, sprawling you like three. And now as you go to face her, she's passed and she's in a kakatame, and you're like, oh shit, what do I do now? Okay, so this is a real problem. Understand that you're never going to be able, because of the position of your bodies, you're never going to be able to slip this elbow inside. Okay, so trying to bring hands inside and do stuff like this is never going to work. Okay, what I have to do is I have to find a way to get my hand or my arm back across to the other side of her head. Okay, now of course the issue when she's locked up tight is that her hands are connected, she's locked strong, and her head is pushing against my rear deltoid, back of my shoulder. So when I go to bring my arm up, it gets stuck. Okay, that's the issue. So what I have to do is I have to make space, and I have to move her head down towards my hips. How do I do this? Through constant kazushi and pumping up the legs. Okay, so now as she goes to start sprawling her legs back, I lock that full figure four. I start pumping, and then when I get enough momentum, I take my hand back around. And now we're in the same position that we were in before, with the top head and arm, and the cross facing the same side as the trapped leg. So we take a hand inside, we start pumping. We take a hand inside, we start pumping. And then from here, we walk up and we make space to go into our recoveries. Okay? So your first goal is, okay, I'm getting it strangled if I get past here. So the first thing is I have to address the submission. All right? I'm not going to be able to escape right from here because of the position of our bodies. My elbow is never going to slip to the inside position. Okay? In addition, if I get past, I'm going to get finished. So this is no good. So I have to first address the submission by getting my hand to the opposite side of the head. Okay? So there's no escapes here, and I'm going to get finished. So I'm trying to get this arm crossed like so. So I start pumping. She has her head in close. She's doing a good job. She has good head position. I feel like, oh, this is not good. Okay? So I start pumping, and I just whip the arm around. And now everything remains the same. We start pumping to get the hand inside. We start pumping to get the hand inside. And then we're ready to go. And we can start exposing our partner's heel in for the counterattacks. And we're ready to go. Okay? So with kagetame, hit the hand back to the other side so you're just in the top head and arm, and not a kagetame, so there's no danger of a strangle if your partner passes your guard. Worst case scenario in the top head and arm, your partner passes your guard and you're pinned in side control. Okay? Worst case with the kagetame is you passed and then you get finished, or you get passed, you turn away to avoid the kagetame, and then your back gets taken. And that's a whole nother issue. Okay, so first bring the hand back across, and then just work your traditional escapes from a top head and arm. Okay, pumping hands back inside, pumping the legs, and then bringing elbows in and creating heel exposure. All right, so now that kind of closes out the ashigarami portion. We're just going to do a little closing segment, a little recap, and then we're going to move on to the inside foot series. Before we move on, we're just going to close out this ashigarami series. All right. Obviously, when someone's standing passing and loose passing, we're always looking again to keep as many points of contact with them as possible and keep them in front of us. All right. So your opponent's entire goal when they're standing and passing from an X guard or any kind of ashigarami, besides, of course, outside ashigarami, and they're standing passing, their whole goal is to get two of their legs to one side of your body. Okay. If they can achieve that, then they're outflanking you, and you're going to be losing that battle. All right. Your goal is to create constant kazushi, so that you can go into attacks, keeping them entangled in X guard, ashigarami, and various 50-50 things like that. The reason why ashigaramis are such good guards, ashigarami variations are such good and powerful guards, because your partner's pretty much limited to loose passing. Okay, they can't change quickly from a loose pass to a tight pass, whereas most other guards they can. All right, because you have the inside leg position, your partner has no real ability to come forward and control your head and shoulders. So you know they're pretty much limited to loose passing, and you know exactly what your goals are. Whereas when everything's happening quickly, if your opponent goes from a loose pass and drops down right to a tight pass, the goals now change. Okay, so for example, if you have any kind of other guard, for example, if I'm in a split squat and I'm here, I'm standing, and I'm loose passing here, I feel like I can stand and I can back step and I can loose pass and pummel my legs. At any point, I can go right in, I can drop right to a tight pass. Where now the goals change and everything's happening very quickly. But if she has the inside position with an X guard, for example, now I'm pretty much only limited to loose passing from here. Okay, I can't come forward and control my partner's head and drop down to a tight pass. All right, so it's much easier for her because she knows exactly what her goals are, And she knows that I'm limited to basically standing, passing, loose passing, coming down. And then once I get here, now she's not in an X guard anymore. So now I can start tight passing and things like that. But when she actually has me entangled, she knows that I'm pretty much limited to loose passing here. Okay, that's why Ashigarami variations in general are such a good guard, because you know exactly what your partner has to do, and they're pretty much limited to loose passing. All right. That being said, if your partner does manage to get two of their legs to the same side of your body, now they're outflanking you, they're walking past your shoulder line, and they're giving you real issues. So your goal is always to re-entangle the legs if you can, and if you can't, find ways to put your partner back in front of you. Okay. Now we touched on that a little bit when your partner was outflanking, walking past the shoulder line. We're going to go into that in detail when we move into Toreando series, people throwing your legs by, moving past the shoulder line, talking about different framings, different frames, different posts, different ways to invert back and put someone in front of you. Okay, but if you have the goal in mind of re-entangling the legs, putting someone back in front of you, everything becomes much more easy and much more clear, as long as you have that goal in mind. Okay, again, everything is just a broad goals that we're looking at, and then specific goals from each situation. But again, there's millions of, thousands of different ways that your partner can place their hands versus you placing your hands, where they're moving their head, things like that. And then finishing with the outside Ashigarami, we saw the unification of loose passing and tight passing. If you have an outside Ashigarami locked and your partner's standing over you, they're loose passing. But the outside Ashigarami is the exception, because at any point they can drop down and they can start tight passing. And I don't know how many of you noticed this, but when she started to come forward and start tight passing from an outside Ashigarami, what was the main objective? To keep the upper body inside position and deny my partner the ability to control my head and shoulders. Okay, so she went from a loose passing situation where I'm trying to keep contact and keep her in front of me, to a tight passing situation where the whole entire goal for her was to control my head and shoulders in some way, to elongate my body, sprawl her legs out, and either pass or take my back. My entire goal is to keep the upper body inside position, deny her ability to control my head and shoulders, and eventually off balance, re-expose the leg, and go into either sweeps or counterattack, sweeps or leg locks, or whatever counterattacks you want from there. Okay, so you saw now the unification of tight passing and loose passing, where the goals change. Initially, she's loose passing. I have one set of goals, and she drops down at the drop of a dime, and she's tight passing. And then my goals change from keeping my partner in front of me with as much contact as possible to denying my partner control of my head. Okay, and then when you think about it like this, everything starts to make sense now. All right, so now we're going to look at more tight passing, more loose passing and tight passing, and the unification of both as we go on to split squat with inside foot cross hamstring first, and then inside foot straight hamstring, where there's more leg pommeling from your partner on top, and how we can pommel legs to get back to Ashigaramis and off balance and sweep.